The following is important safety information for all subcontractors and their employees. Please listen carefully, as you are responsible for understanding all the information that is being presented in this video presentation. If you do not understand something or have any questions, please talk to your supervisor or an NRP Contractors manager. Thank you for your attention.
Welcome to NRP Contractors. NRP values your work, and we believe the development of sound work practices with subcontractors will enhance value for both parties. A commitment to workplace safety contributes to added value through the elimination of injuries, property damage, and interruptions of business operations. NRP Contractors believes that all accidents can be prevented with proper planning and the proper attitude.
NRP Contractors requires all subcontractors and suppliers performing work on its projects to comply with all governmental regulations and all applicable workplace requirements. All subcontractors must ensure that employee safety is given a high priority in the conduct of their business and aggressively manage a safety and health program for their employees. The primary items of concern are hazards that produce the possibility of falls, electrocution, struck by, caught in between, and pinch points. As a subcontractor, you have the primary responsibility for the safety of your employees and other employees at the work site. It is your obligation to assure that all operations and equipment related to your work meet at the very least the requirements of OSHA and all other applicable codes. As the general contractor, NRP Contractors has the right to periodically review the job site to monitor your compliance with the responsibilities set forth above, and to assure, so far as possible, that compliance is achieved and maintained. If you or your staff are issued a notice of hazard or safety violation, it is your responsibility to correct the hazard as soon as possible. You are responsible to obtain, wear, and maintain your personal protective equipment. As a minimum, we require you to wear hard hats, work boots or shoes, long pants, shirts with a sleeve, and a safety vest or high-res shirt. No tennis shoes, please. If you are a roofer and want to wear a softer-soled work shoe for better traction, the shoe must still meet the standard safety requirements. No tennis shoes allowed. Remember, if you do not have the minimum required PPE, you are not allowed to work on site. Safety glasses must be used when operating any power tool and/or when an eye hazard exists. Full face shield and safety glasses must be worn when performing any grinding or cutting of concrete or metal. Other types of PPE shall be used as indicated by the type of job being performed, as directed by information contained within an SDS sheet, or as identified from a job safety analysis. Personnel using respirators shall have completed a medical evaluation, been fit tested, and their associated company shall have a written respiratory policy available for review at the job site. Falls. Falls from height and falling equipment continue to be one of the most frequent hazards on a construction site. NRP Contractors' threshold for the use of fall protection is 6 feet, and this includes scaffold assemblies. All employees exposed to an unprotected edge, open excavation, walking working surface with a hole, or while working above dangerous equipment shall be protected from falling by either guardrails or personal fall arrest system to include a harness and lanyard. Employees shall be protected from falling objects. Options to shield against impact from falling objects include toe boards, canopy structures, barricades, or use of a CAS. For a space to be confining, it must satisfy 3 conditions. Be large enough and configured so that an employee can enter and perform assigned work. Have limited or restricted means for entry or exit. For example, tanks, vessels, silos, storage bins, hoppers, vaults, storm sewers, and pits. This limitation may be based on the size of the opening or the number. Confined spaces are not designed for continuous employee occupancy. If you enter a confined space, you must have proper training. All safety measures must be followed for any on-site excavations. All open excavations must be protected. Proper benching, sloping, or shielding shall be used at all times. A ladder must be used for egress and should be within 25 feet of workers. The ladder must extend 3 feet above the top of the excavation. All requirements for electrical safety must be followed. All circuits must be grounded. Portable generators with a rating of 500 watts or greater shall have connections protected by a GFCI. All multi-outlet power strips and extension cords must be construction grade. Extension cord shall be inspected prior to use and free from damage. This includes missing ground prongs and exposed inner wires. Any damaged cords cannot be used. All employees should be familiar with proper lockout and tag-out procedures. Lockout and tag-out applies to all energy sources, including pressurized lines, electricity, and machinery. GFCIs are required and placed at the source of power. Scaffold safety requirements must be followed. All scaffolds shall be straight, level, and plumb. Proper use of guardrails for fall protection is a must. Ladder access is required for elevated work areas. Climbing the scaffold frame is not permitted. All decking must be scaffold-grade lumber and free from damage. All levels must be completely decked before you work off of them. All scaffolds shall be inspected each day by a competent person and tagged as go, no go for use. All requirements for ladder safety must be followed. All ladders must be either a Type 1 or Type 1A with a minimum weight rating of 250 pounds. Extension ladder sections cannot be separated. Ladders must exceed point of egress by 3 feet. Ladders should be secured top and bottom. Weight rating placards must be legible. Do not climb on the top 2 steps of the ladder. If you cannot reach an area, use a taller ladder. Do not lean A-frame ladders and use like extension ladders. On extension ladders, make sure the dog latches are securely in place. When using mobile equipment, inspect all equipment for damages or leaks before you begin work. Seatbelts must be worn on equipment that provides them. Set the emergency brake when you park equipment. When you park equipment, do not block streets or access ways. Fire extinguishers will be available at different locations around the job site. At minimum, 1 ABC rated extinguisher near gas or diesel powered devices. Subcontractor personnel are required to supply their own extinguishers as needed for the type of activity conducted or as required for various hazards. Periodically check the gauge to make sure it is correctly charged. No smoking is allowed in any building. If you smoke, it must be outside, and you must dispose of your cigarette butts properly. Do not throw them on the ground. Inspect area for combustible material when performing hot work such as welding or cutting, grinding on steel. A fire extinguisher must be within 25 feet of any welding, cutting, or grinding of steel or open flame work. Paths of egress and doorways must be kept open and free from obstruction. If there is an emergency on the site, you will be notified by 3 long blasts from an air horn. Upon notification of an emergency, all personnel are to proceed to the closest exit and assemble at the site trailer office to conduct a head count. Not all safety requirements can be covered in this short presentation, but you are responsible for knowing the items covered. Here is a summary of NRP Contractor's basic safety requirements on the job.
Do not take shortcuts. If you have questions or are unsure of something, ask your supervisor. All subcontractors shall be in compliance with all NRP contractors, federal, state, and local safety policies. Your safety manual and SDS log information must be kept on site. All ladders must have at least a 250 rating. Hard hats shall be worn in designated areas or at specific times of production. Brims must face forward. Layout of work and verification of work and conditions shall be done in the safest manner possible. Required cleanup, debris removal, and housekeeping procedures shall be done at least daily and more frequently when necessary. Fall protection is required for any work above 6 feet and where otherwise required. Only approved equipment, machinery, and tools required to perform a task shall be used. Only approved scaffolding, barricades, devices, ladders, or fall protection shall be used. All scaffolds must be inspected and tagged daily and/or before they are used. All products must be installed and used per latest printed manufacturer's instructions. All compressors, saws, generators, nail guns, and power equipment must have operating guards. Guards cannot be removed or disengaged. All fuel containers must be properly stored, labeled, and be OSHA compliant. Only UL or DOT approved gas cans are allowed on site. Each sub is required to have an appropriately rated and sized fire extinguisher readily available when performing any hot work, welding, or when using any type of flammable or combustible liquid. All extinguishers must be inspected and maintained according to existing fire safety codes. All above-ground diesel tanks must have a spill containment, a fire extinguisher, and proper labels and placards. All extension cords and air compressor hoses must be kept in safe operating conditions. Subcontractor personnel must attend all scheduled toolbox talks, and all foremen must attend NRP subcontractor meetings. Hard hats, eye protection, respiratory protection, proper foot protection, and any other required PPE for the job at hand must be worn at all appropriate times. Use of respirators includes having a written program, medical clearance evaluations, annual fit testing, and records of training that covers proper selection, use, and maintenance of various respirator protective devices. Cell phone use is not permitted while operating power equipment, cranes, heavy equipment, forklifts, lulls, JLGs, scissor lifts, or aerial platforms. Job site speed limit is 10 miles per hour. Subcontractors shall not place, deposit, discharge, spill, or store any unauthorized hazardous material on the project site. Subcontractors shall indemnify and hold harmless NRP contractors affiliates, owner, and owner's lender against loss, damage, and/or expense of claim arising from the acts or failure to act by the subcontractor or any lower-tiered person. All accidents and near-miss events and injuries must be immediately reported to NRP contractors' site personnel. Accident follow-up to determine root cause and implementation of corrective measures will take place subsequent to each and/or any event. In the event of an accident, do not do anything to the scene of the accident unless directed by NRP contractors' personnel. All NRP contractors' construction sites are drug and alcohol-free environments. That includes your lunchbox and your vehicle. Unauthorized or inappropriate use of drugs and/or alcohol will result in discharge from the project. All subcontractor personnel are required to comply with all federal, state, local, and NRP contractors' safety requirements. If you are in doubt, ask before the accident happens. Please direct all questions to the superintendent, or you may contact the Safety Department at 210-487-7878, extension 2108, or 216-475-8900. Thank you for your attention to this safety video. We value your work, and thank you for making the job site safe for everyone.